Where we were last week, we had just gone through the micro vision, mission, and purpose, and sort of micro design of a sustainable eco-village of a Steve. And then we got into all of the basic mechanics of it, how we would live in these sustainable eco-villages. So that was where Sharon's mom and everyone jumped in and was discussing all of the different things that we would need to pay attention to, and seasons and different plants growing in different regions. And that was super interesting and really, really important. One of the things that came up was the concept that we need to put it out there. We need to create that. So what is it that we wish to create, and what's stopping us? It's like, I was on Facebook, I read Margaret Hare say the 3 rules of life. If you don't go after what you want, you will never have it. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. And if you don't step forward, you will remain in the same place. That's pretty much saying exactly what I was saying. If you don't put it out there, nobody's going to hear and nobody's going to know what you want. So what is stopping you is my question to me. And is it the voices in my head that are saying, okay, we'll just hold back? Are they my subconscious or unconscious habits that are making it really difficult for me to change my behavior and go and put myself out there? Is it fear? And so on. And then the concept of, if I want to change it, anything that I've practiced for 21 days or more will become my new conditioned habit. And of course, that became very relevant when I did yoga for the first time. So now, what is it that we want? And like, when you're putting it out there, you have to be very, very, very specific. You can't just say, oh, we need land. That's not good enough. So somebody goes and gives you a square foot of land, it's like, and you got your land, you asked for it, and that's what you got. Or a billion acres of land, and it's all in Rocky Mountains. What is it that you want? So you've got to be very specific. And so I just on the land and water thing, I just said, okay. And for the eco-villages, it's like, we need donations to create a Steve, a free living online education system for humanity. That's what we want to create. So I'm very specific on what I want to create. Donations will include resources and or money. First of all, we need land and water. A minimum of 25 acres of arable fertile land with a 15-degree maximum incline, with ample water supply, good rainfall, and a good catchment area, in a safe country, in a safe area, as far away from monoculture farming as possible, away from where farmers use poisons, plowing, and soil destruction and degradation practices. We would need housing, storage facilities, or materials, tools, and equipment to build the housing if those facilities weren't available. And of course, the storage facilities would have to be safe. We would need money for labor, equipment, rentals, materials, all related costs for vehicles and fuel and everything else that is required to run them. Costs of seeds, equipment for working the land, labor, irrigation systems, swales, catchment dams, piping, electrical pumps, cables, livestock, animals, horses, everything necessary to maintain and sustain the best possible sustainable teaching educational village, to be able to facilitate the best learning that we could for the people who come to the land, come to join us. We would teach things like art and skill training. We would need sort of art and skill training facilities, tools, equipment, art, and fine art are in many forms, in many forms of physical art. Things from like pottery to sculpture to woodwork, metalwork, blacksmiths and masonry work. Teach all of the ancient art forms that mankind has forgotten. To do that, we would have to do a lot of research and learning ourselves. So it would be learning from both sides, from the teacher's side and the learner's side. So being specific, I just jotted this down. I didn't get into a total edit on it. But what do you think? Do you think that that's a good idea to be specific and put it out there, maybe on a TED Talk or something?
Well, as you're going through the list, I'd respond that, yeah, you need to be specific. Otherwise, it's a half-assed job. And it really brings to awareness what it would take in order to create an area like that. Yeah, that's reality. And yeah, I also agree that if you don't put it all up front and you engage and enroll other people in supporting you or contributing or being part of it, and then the surprises start to come up, I think you can do more damage than if you didn't do anything to begin with. So definitely being aware of as much of the necessities and resources that are going to be needed is important. And if there are people that get frightened by that, then they're not as committed as you might need. On the other hand, I think people appreciate the transparency and awareness of what they're getting into, and not let sticker shock scare them away from what is a really important project, obviously.
Sorry, Alex.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it also gives insight into things that we still need to learn. Not just as a you and me thing, but people out there. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's go out into the garden and stick a seed in the soil. Like, I can do that. I mean, really, what do you need a teacher's eco-village for? And then when you start to put all the pieces together, it's like, oh, well, it's actually not just teaching you how to put a seed in the soil. It's teaching you how to look at your land, how to look at your sunlight, how to look at your water supply, how to look at your water storage, how to store that food long term, how to create jam jars and to preserve your foods long term. I mean, once you start adding all the little bits into it, okay, well, you need jars to actually jam into. You need pots to store seeds and stuff into. How do you create those? How do you make those? How do you as you become more and more sustainable, you need to learn more and more skills to not to rely on the system. And if you don't know those skills, then you need a place where you can go and learn all those skills one time, one session. It's over a month period or a month course. You can go and actually learn all those skills.
I don't know if that's possible, but I would say you would have to choose, say we're going to go and learn about water catchment and spend 10 days or a month doing that, and then 10 days on the next thing or whatever. I think it's a longer journey. I think it's like getting a university degree or getting an upbringing in this is really what it is. It's a huge journey, but a fascinating and so exciting, it's like, yay, let's do the next thing, and if you have the right attitude, I think the mental predisposition is crucial. So I was thinking of the fundamental intellectual requirements for sustainability. I think you must have the desire to imagine and the willingness to make it happen, of course, and then gain the foundational natural knowledge, skills, and wisdom necessary to make it happen. Because without that, you're going to make mistakes, a lot more mistakes than are necessary. So learning and embracing as your own the fundamental love-based values and beliefs is essential to ensure that you don't make the simplest of mistakes. Then you'll need community ethics, a code of conduct by which to live. There are acceptable and unacceptable behaviors and limitations on those behaviors, which are requirements, not absolutes, but guiding principles that, of course, within your specific community, you can adapt them and change them to some degree to live your life within a community, because people cannot live together if you don't have mutually acceptable sets of ethics, principles, and behaviors. Then make an effort to design and develop your community, your land, or nothing else will happen. If you don't have the principles and the desire and the motivation to go out there and make it happen, then if you want to go and sit and watch Netflix movies on a series that's like five seasons long and whatever, and spend your time doing that, well, and good for you, but you're not going to have a sustainable eco-village at the end of it, you know. So it really is a commitment of your time, energy, effort, of your life, really, because this is redesigning your life, recreating you in nature as one with nature. So it's an enormous thing. It doesn't have to be perceived like that, like each one of these lessons is just another journey, you know. And you do one journey, then the next, bumble along, and eventually you're there with a lot of knowledge, being able to manage and set up the next eco-village. So anyone got anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about who I even know who would have the wherewithal to do a project like that. There are a couple of people that have a lot of money. I'm not close friends with them, but you know, parties and friends of friends kind of thing. One of them runs a nonprofit called Heal the Planet, which has their annual festival today, I guess, their awareness festival on Earth Day. And the head of that organization has pretty much totally funded it himself, except it's now making money to support its projects. But when I think about his ability to organize things and to throw money at things to make them happen, and even just an event in a park today takes a lot of planning, a lot of support. So I'm just wondering, somebody like that who does that for their life, right? They can throw money whatever they want to create whatever project they want, still has a devil of a time trying to get it off the ground without a huge amount of stress. Now, obviously, an event and an eco-village are two different things. But when you look at the extent and scope of the project and the timeline required, and as you started to share the potentially thousands of things that will be needed to support it in the vision that you have, it becomes a real question over whether I can accomplish this or not, even if I had all the resources. And obviously the next resources, if I had all the material things, would be the people. I can't do it alone. So it's a village. It takes a village to do it. And that means getting them like-minded and committed and operating in integrity, not just nice words. Yeah, sure, I'll help out. Sure, I'll do that. Yeah. Oops, no, I had a chance to move out of the country, so I'm going to take that up. And, you know, all the different things that will impact our ability to do it, plus the time frame. I mean, people are at this point in the world, and I speak for a lot of people, I think, under pressure to figure out how they're going to survive with the means that they have right now. Never mind creating a whole new means structure in order to support them. You know, with rents being astronomical and gas prices being out of range and food prices, of course, then being out of range, people suddenly find in the matter of 6 weeks, and this is just the Ukraine supply chain, but obviously other things are impacting it, how hard it is to live on what they've set up for the previous 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So I'm just throwing out questions. It's something I consider if I was going to be looking at working with an eco village. Is at what level can I jump in? At what level do I have to be a foundational member, and what will that require of me? If it's already on the way set up, what kind of skills can I contribute that would be valuable to that community, and still help it build to a more functional and sustainable level? So I guess these are the questions, Dennis. They're just kind of coming up since we're talking about it. What would it take really? And then the next question is, and who would want to take that on, given what their history and habits are right now, and are they willing and can they change in order to jump on that ship, that eco village ship, for however much time we have available to us anyway. My thoughts.
Very, very good questions and very good thoughts. The concept of, there are a lot of people who have extended families with a certain amount of wealth in different, members of the family, and quite often in permaculture situations and these eco-village situations, is people have brought together their family wealth and bought land. And then each person functions within their own abilities within that system, and have been pretty successful. So there is that when you do have sort of extended wealth, So there is selling up land in the cities and so on, and acquiring land in a country that's not so extremely expensive for land further out. Further afield. They have made it happen on numerous occasions, so it is a possibility to do it that way. And then, of course,
it's a possibility. It's how can we replicate it on such a huge level where it makes an impact?
Well, I think that's the journey. Is once one is established, much of the basic equipment and whatever that's required for one can be used for 2 and 3 and 4, and with a little bit of added tools and whatever, the next one can be created, and it'll be a lot cheaper each time you replicate, so and there will always be the first one's wealth in terms of life and whatever to sustain the next one, and then once the next one, then there's twice the value of food and resources and so on available for the next one. So I think it does decrease in actual expense. And then the whole idea was to creating this system, to televise it all, to have it going out there, these lessons for other people around the world. So it creates this free educational system of how to make a pot, how to make the potter's wheel, how to do these different things, or just to make it by hand. And it becomes an educational center as well as an internet educational center. And in every way, it could be like one of these, you could even take it to one of these crazy ideas of these popular television shows where they show you people living real life, on a yacht. It could be done like that, and to finance the whole thing. And it could be like, living on a sustainable eco village, and this is what singing and dancing and doing everything, and these are the beds we are planting today, and this is how we did it. And so it could become this, like, really, we could use all of the potential available to us to fund it, and then the funding won't be the big thing. It'll be the contribution to the education of the world and the world's people that would be the greater value. And then that would be like an indirect education system for humanity, where people could just go online, learn about it, and like get inspired and say, that's what I want to do. And bam, go out there and use their ingenuity and their resourcefulness to come up with their own eco village. Alex, anything?
Right now, I've just got different ways that I'm just taking the different ways that you've mentioned and just processing them through my mind. We're basically doing it one step at a time here, in our back garden every day. I mean, if we were televising that or, making it into YouTube videos and selling it as how-tos online, we already can start bringing in subscribers, bringing in interested parties and things like that to our 1 or 2 steps on how to, I don't know, do jam jars or a fermentation process of the vegetables that we reap and sow and store and all of that. I mean, we're doing it anyway. We're going through those processes on a daily basis. If we had to start making those videos now and really putting together a help save our world, not necessarily an education database that people can subscribe to, pay money towards, donate to, I think we can really start to get traction here already. And then as, little bits of money come in, we carry on building for the purpose of teaching until we're at a point where we can say, okay, guys, here's opportunity of 10 people can come to our property and come and learn and stay with us and be with us for a period of time and to learn all the skills that we've learned and see them in practice and go from there, as opposed to trying to do it the other way around. I mean, so there's those options too, but I'm just like letting it process through my mind, like, the options.
So I'm making some notes about the ideas I liked about.
I love that, Alex. I think that, we are always like on some creative journey, making something, doing something, relearning something. And you do it a lot. And like you did with the fermentation and so on, and the tinctures and the mycelium, the mushrooms, and all these things that you go and you decide, I want to try this project, and bam, off you go. And you're really good at video and that sort of thing. I mean, Alex doesn't have to edit afterwards. I edit you cannot imagine how much, just to make it sound reasonable. But when she does it, she just seems to do it like one off, and oh my gosh, that's a gift. So yeah, I think it's an excellent idea. And anything to expand our YouTube views and so on, I think is a great idea, fantastic idea. The next thing is actually the main one for the meeting. Throughout my journey, I was often in the inner city and so on. And the heading for this section is Inner City Agriculture is a good start, but ultimately it is unsustainable. Although growing plants in inner cities are essential first steps in re-educating people about nature, it's not a sustainable solution. Growing food in your apartment, on the balcony, on rooftops, in community gardens, along streets, in parks, on golf courses and at schools. Although these are essential lessons in re-educating inner city populations, helping the poor to feed themselves and the homeless survive in increasingly unsustainable circumstances, it unfortunately is not sustainable. You could never grow enough food for the population of a city within the city. It's just can't be done. These crucial lessons ultimately lead to you realizing that it is not enough. We have no choice but to spread out on the land. We have no choice but to decentralize, leave the inner cities, reconnect with nature and life, and grow an abundant and sustainable future. You could not feed yourself and the rest of the city's population healthy, naturally grown foods on what you can grow in these situations. Insufficient natural ecosystems, insufficient land, insufficient topsoil, insufficient space. And of course, it really comes down to one of the most important things is sun shines across the land and plants grow on the land. So you have to have enough spread out area for the sun to shine and to be captured, that energy to be captured by the plants to grow into living and healthy plants. And of course, it has to be on nutritious soil, and the nutrition in the soil is also spread out across the land. And then, of course, the water has to be spread out, and so on and so on and so on, and not too much, not too little. So the whole thing is that you need enough land and enough space to grow healthy fruits and vegetables on the land. And then, of course, there are losses to insects and all sorts of other pests or diseases and so on. So not every inch of land that you grow something on is going to be productive and is going to give you exactly what you expect. So you have to have more land and more spread out plants, and you have to rotate crops and so on. So there's a lot more to it than what you can do just in the inner city. But there is also, if you look into the background that I have, with monoculture cropping, you don't produce sort of as much per unit area of diverse, healthy, and incredible food that you can in an eco-village system. So that system can be extremely productive, and but it's still not enough to feed the people around you. It's good enough for the community and maybe to raise your children and whatever, and it's good enough for that, but it's not enough to feed the population of a city, especially Mexico City or Fort Lauderdale, or Miami or somewhere like that. It's like it's crazy numbers of people in a very densely populated area. Anyone want to talk about that?
No, I agree.
You agree?
I think, just as an add-on though, I think that people doing that or considering that, local grown on balconies or backyards or community gardens, whether or not it's sustainable or even the best way to do it, their mindset is going towards sustainability by even considering. So I think that's at least a good point of it, is that it kind of sows the seeds of a higher possibility in them, because they're already working in it. Even though it may be frustrating with their results, at least they're giving it a try. And I think that's starting the conversation in areas of the population that are going to need it.
Yes, I don't want to take away from that in any way. I mean, that would be the biggest disaster, because the steps to reconnecting with nature is like, oh, my little plants just grow in little shoots, and it's like, oh, I love that. And then it's that love relationship that's growing into this beautiful little plant in your windowsill. And every day you come and you just check on it and you give it love and you say nice, wonderful things to it, and it grows beautifully, and it just becomes this amazing, it's your family growing in your house with you. And that relationship is priceless. Yeah. So, and then that journey of growing more and more and becoming totally connected to your family of living beings around you. Oh my gosh, that's absolutely, it's the most valuable thing you could imagine. But you'll reach a point where it's like, okay, now what do I do? What do I do for the next step? And the next step is, if you could step into a sustainable eco-village where people are teaching you all of this other stuff, oh my gosh, what a wonderful journey of life you're on. I think that's the magic. It's like, but just to throw away our knowledge, our skills, our talents, and not give it a shot just because this is a big project, is like, it's not an option. We've just got to keep on doing what we're doing, and then just, for me, the giving the knowledge away for free would be the ultimate thing. So I like the donations model. Is if you have land to donate it. If you have, whatever to donate it. But But like Alex was saying, maybe get some money coming in through the videos and so on. But I don't know. I know that the donations thing in general doesn't work that well. People don't like to donate unless they get something back in return, so maybe the free education is something back in return, but they can get that on Google or anywhere for free without paying anything. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure. That's a journey.
What people are you talking about? What demographic that you just described?
I'm just thinking of like average people within our sort of like level of understanding and whatever. I mean, if I want to get some knowledge, quite often I do pay for courses and so on. So there is that, but more often than not, I'll just research it on YouTube and learn what I need to know and just carry on from there.
Well, yeah, and that's why I was asking, because not everybody is like you. As far as the drive and persistence to research something and to go deep into it, and then to put it together in some kind of meaningful format to deliver to somebody else. So as you're talking about being able to learn this stuff, I'm thinking, so who are the people that would be motivated to do this? Are the 20-somethings, the 40-somethings, the aging generation?
Yeah.
Or is it, kids in elementary and high school that we need to have this message get to, so that their filters in living are through this kind of lens of sustainability and cooperation and in making the world a better place and help saving the planet, versus just I don't make any
this
too hard for me. I'd rather be playing baseball, watching my iPhone.
Yeah, I know a lot of people come to mind. That young girl who came over from, I think, Sweden or whatever to America. And do you remember her name? She's the ideal person. And then there's a guy from Canada, he's an ecologist, and his daughter wrote How to Change the World in 5 Minutes, or did a speech at the United Nations. And it was an incredible speech about, and then these are sort of thought leaders, but then you get to people who just love permaculture, just love to live sustainably in community and on the land. And I think most women who are raising a child would love to have their child running around and playing with them while they're out gardening and teaching their children what they're doing and so on. So because the first people to leave the land and go into the cities is usually the men. And the woman, it's so much harder to get them to leave the land because they know that is what sustains them. Right, throughout history, it's been like a demographic thing. It's like that the last people to leave are the women, so it's an interesting concept. So maybe we should be targeting the female population, young females, and then in schools, like if we're teaching in the schools this whole system, and we're teaching about the eco-villages as part of the curriculum and showing the potential, then maybe that would be an ideal population to focus on. So having textbooks and so on and videos and so on going into schoolrooms, and might be one of the areas. But then children don't have the money to pay, but their parents do. And then you get the older people like myself and yourself, who come from the 50s and 60s and 70s and so on, who were raised closer to nature than people are today. So, and there were a lot of those movements, Woodstock, going back to the land and so on, returning back to nature. So there is a lot of that awareness in the older population. So,
sure.
I don't think there's a specific gender or age group or anything like that. I think if you're interested in sustainable living, you could be a 18-year-old male or you could be 86-year-old female. I mean, I don't think there is a certain age group or archetype. I think there's a general understanding that we all need to be better at this or get better at this, whether it's recycling or paying less electricity or we all know there's something wrong. Fundamentally, we've got that understanding. Whether we acknowledge it to that degree or not, we do know that there's a problem. I mean, there are millions of people around the world who are willing to pay 180 Rand or, $8 to Greenpeace to every month as this is my contribution for you guys to go help the planet. So there is that sort of, and I know because I'm one of them. But I mean, I've been interested in this since as far back as I can remember. I don't think I'm a particular type of person to go about learning all these things. I guess I'm more artistic than academic person or minded, and I want to learn new things and grow as a human being. I mean, I would love to learn how to do pottery and painting and all sorts of things. And I do my research to go and do that. But if I had a one-stop shop place where I could go and learn everything that is nature orientated, that would help benefit the planet, if I knew how to make pots or blow glass or all the necessary tools to be a more sustainable human being on the planet, would I want to go and subscribe to that? And would I want to maybe pay a monthly donation fee or buy a few courses? Or I think I would.
Yeah. Basically, this is for the whole of humanity to change their way of life and change the world. So, yeah, I love that, Alex. That was awesome. You were saying, Kurt, you were busy.
Lots of things came across recently. So I was thinking, when you're talking about the cities needing to spread out again, how many areas and countries have had this escape from farmland into the cities because the kids weren't interested. They were jealous of the things that people in cities could get that they on the farmland couldn't, because they had to work 12 hours a day to make things work. And so there was an exodus from the very areas that we're talking about. I was part of the 60s and 70s back to the land. I knew and stayed at many communes in upstate New York. And as great as they were, there were still more people that said, yeah, but you can't get to the movie theater and to JCPenney or wherever else they shop. And it becomes a chore. My friend yesterday, who lives out near Immokalee, which is Western Everglades, he was saying yesterday that in order to get to a supermarket, it's about a 10-mile drive for him. And if he wants to get, and that was like a non-brand supermarket, if he wants to get to Publix, it's like a 15 or 20-minute drive. And he's questioned, I go shopping, and if we don't get it at this store, we have to drive to that one. And of course, with gas being the way it is now, it's just like, how can we maximize our trip? And he was saying, sometimes we get back to the house and go, oh no, I forgot that one thing. And it's just not likely for them to go out and get it, because we just don't have the luxury of burning the gas and, and even finding things anymore. As you know, that the availability of goods has trickled down quite a bit. So in talking about that, and he's basically a back to the land. They don't have solar there, but he's tilling his good land and living as much of a sustainable life as they can start to build there. And he's having just the basic concerns about distance creates problems when you're outside. Now, obviously, he's not self-sustainable, so that's an issue for him at the moment. But as we look at this, I just think people will always listen to what are the circumstances that are going to keep me from being able to do this, rather than what's the commitment and joy I'm going to get from actually doing it. And I don't have an answer for it yet, because I see lots of forces that are willing to trip people on their ankles from doing what they heartfelt believe, such as building an eco-village or something, because it's not in the interest of business. And we know business has a way of gobbling up any competitors in whichever way they want to. So again, not to be a naysayer here, it's just there are some circumstances that we know are mega trends, such as the exodus from farming communities of private families and turning it over to mega corporations. Even the fact of, water is not a right. We get to siphon it out and put it in plastic bottles and sell it to you, but no, you can't get it for free out of the ground. Even catching your own rainwater is illegal in certain states. So, there's just so many things. And again, these are just hurdles that we have to overcome. And, let's get as far as we can with what we have. And then we'll see what happens. Just to end it, Dennis, you used this reference a number of times, but I like the one that 100% of arrows unshot never meet the target. So if you're not going to go out and try,
exactly,
or do,
exactly,
likely it's not going to happen unless some stroke of cosmic synchronicity drops it in your lap.
The thing is we can always look at what are the reasons why this won't work, or we can just look at our belief that we want this to work, and it has to work because this is our only real option. We have to decentralize and return to the land. There is no other option. It's, if we don't decentralize, we're extinct in a very short period of time. That's it. So it's not a question of, oh, will I like to go and watch the moon? There won't be a city anymore. It will all be destroyed. And then what are you going to do? You have to get out, and you have to get out now. And you have no choice. You think you have a choice? Well, unfortunately for you, no, you don't. Because as nature is being devastated by corporations and businesses, and just as everything's dying at this incredible rate, the only chance we have of saving it is for us to return to the land. It's decentralize and survive, or stay centralized and become extinct, because we're not dinosaurs that haven't got the potential to learn and to think. And of course we're going to overgraze our planet, and that's the reason why we all die. Or, well, they say it's an asteroid, but it's very possible that they multiply to themselves out of existence. It could be anything like that. But so decentralization, we've got 5 minutes. Decentralization is essential because, remember, the sun shines, plants grow, we eat the plants, and we grow. Plant life captures energy from the sun and the universe, which we assimilate into our bodies. Life gives life to life, and we are composed of the energy of the sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxies, and the universe. So to sustain life, we have no choice but to spread out on the land, to capture the life-giving energy of the universe with plant life that is spread out on the land that we consume. We must also live as one with Mother Earth's ecosystems, and that's what I was saying. It's like, without the ecosystems, we don't exist. So we have to regenerate those as quickly as possible. We need to sow seeds, spread seeds, nurture whatever plants that we are growing, expanding biodiversity and life globally. We need to be getting from other places, slips from or clippings from other farmers, and then go and plant here and then give them some of ours. And there has to be this interconnected network of eco-villages that are expanding life outward from their hubs, from their centers. And that's permaculture. They talk about zones, like you have the internal zone, which is like the area where you can easily access for for food that you're going to be consuming every day. So it's zone 1, zone 2, all the way out to zone 7, which is like out there where animals are grazing, and you have sort of your forestry and trees and so on for whatever building and whatever you need. So there's this zoning, which is essential. Sustainability requires living within renewable natural systems. So water, topsoil, food, growth, life, energy, spread out on the land. We can create water security, grow food security, and grow food forests. And with our current available knowledge, skills, and wisdom, you can improve upon what nature naturally does in all of these natural productive systems, as is taught in permaculture. So, and it's not necessary, doesn't necessarily belong to permaculture, because there's forestry, which is a whole area, and then there's information they've gained from learning from the Amazon people in the Amazon jungle, but growing diverse types of trees in clusters and so on, and then progressively spreading out. So there's permaculture is not specifically the thing. It is taking all of this natural wisdom from all of these ancient cultures and so on, and bringing it all together and applying science to it as well. So of course, we must ensure we live sustainably within the growing ecosystem's capacity to sustain itself naturally. Some ecosystems are more fragile than others and require that we spread out even more on those areas, taking care to ensure that we are constantly checking in with the balances of nature around us and within us, of course. Then there's things like crop rotation, land usage, and planned grazing, which Alan Savory is doing in Northern Rhodesia, and it's now spreading around the world. So if we need to move, we must. If we don't, when nature collapses, so do we. So, and that example of desertification in Egypt and in a lot of those Arabic regions where, you know, just too dense a population will devastate a region, and a civilization, pyramid schemes and whatever, growing to a great extent, and then literally overgrazing and just over plundering of the resources in the area results in a collapse of an ecosystem. So the idea is that, like, I think ultimately we need to get rid of roads and bridges and fences and so on, to allow the free movement of wildlife, or create wildlife corridors that have ample food for wildlife to pass through. So we start to live more in a flowing ecological setting, so that as animals need to migrate because of the seasons and so on, they do so that they don't stay in one place. And of course, fertilize the land as they go, and then graze up north and then come back down again, especially in Africa. So whereas our whole system has shut down the flow of migration of people and nature to such an extent that is unsustainable. So one more thing, we all have a responsibility to one another, all life and Mother Nature. Inner city people, insatiable consumption, businesses, corporate plunder, and the destruction of nature don't work out for anybody anymore, and it won't work out for us. So we need to change. Anybody? That's it. I've done my piece and I hit the half-hour mark.
I just want to comment on what Kurt said earlier.
Go ahead.
As to why people don't want to move out onto land and their reasons towards it. For me, the idea I've got in my mind is that when you've got a piece of land, you've got people on it, people that you care about, people who you connect with, that you enjoy being around. It may be one family unit, or it might be multiple families on the same property, utilizing the same facilities and so forth. If you've got more than one family on the land and you've got people around you, and together you have movie night once a month, and you go and you dance around the fire, once a week, and there is a sense of getting out of your little space, of your time, of your house, to interact, to entertain, to play, to dance, to be with others. So there's no need for us to leave our farm, go into town to go have a night out on the town, because that night out is happening on a regular basis on your property, on your piece of land, on your sustainable eco-village. With regards to getting essentials from town, that's very much, I would say, to a large extent, a mindset. Because when I lived in Impangeni, there was this very, very small town mindset of, oh no, I don't want to go all the way into town. And literally town is like 1 kilometer or 500 meters away. You can literally see town like over the bushes, Whereas someone who lives on farmlands, 20 kilometers is an acceptable traveling distance to get the resources that you need. So there's definitely a mindset on distance with regarding humans, especially the older generation from the age of 20 upwards. Because youngsters, they want to move, they want to see, they want to go and find a mate, they want to travel, and they want to interact with different eco-villages until they find one that they want to settle down in. And that's just how they're wired, until they sort of like find a place, they settle down, then they're like, okay, this is my new routine, this is what I'm going to do every day. They find their place in the systems. But while there is still the attraction of huge cities and the nightlife and the bars and the discos and the those sort of things, kids, youngsters, up until the ages of, while looking for a mate, are going to go to those places and go and search for what they're looking for, find themselves, which is perfectly acceptable. It's, maybe there is an understanding that we keep a certain kid zone, a place where youngsters can go, or people can go to find people that can relate. Sorry, I'm just going to pause there. My throat is just decided to close up.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alex. There's we need to understand the sociology of it as well, not just the mechanics of setting up the areas, so that we can at some point build this into actually a sustainable mindset, where generation after generation continue this, rather than it being a nice little blip in civilization right now, as we're approaching potentially disastrous circumstances based on climate change and wars and unbridled capitalism and everything else that impacts this small human being who's just trying to live a nice life. I agree with you.
Anything else from your Alex?
No, I'm good. Yeah, I just wanted to get that across. We've got to understand human sociology, like Kurt said. It plays a big part. As COVID really sort of like slapped us across the face in terms of oh, you don't need to go out every 5 seconds. You don't need to interact with every single person on the face of the planet. And locked us in our homes and told us to behave. And that was like not fair. And how dare they do that to us? How dare nature do this to us? But we had to change our mindset. We had to realize that it's not about us like that. And, you know, we don't need all the things that we thought we needed. We didn't need to go to Tiffany's and go and buy the most expensive jewelry and the most expensive dresses to go to the most expensive party for absolutely no reason. We didn't need all those things. We needed to stay safe in our homes and look after our families and our older generation and, you know, make sure everyone around us was safe. We had to like re-look at the way we lived our lives. And I think that was a big eye-opener for a lot of people who are very, very social people. For me, it wasn't so much of an impact because, you know, I'm quite happy to sit behind my computer every day and chat to people online. It's basically what I do. But I still needed to get out. I still needed to go interact with people. I still needed to go dance. I still needed to go have fun and enjoy myself. And if I was living on the land with, you know, a few different families, I would have made that here. I would have made bonfire time and I would have made movie night time. And just to get out from behind my computer and go and spend some time dancing, playing, joking, and just having a good time. And we need that. We need that interaction with others, no matter how introverted we are. And COVID really woke us up there, especially for me.
So yeah, it had huge global impact on so many levels and still continues to. It's like it was a step in a much larger campaign of domination and manipulation of the masses. And I'm not saying it's not real, but as we look at just all of the other things that have happened coming out of that, and it's changed the world. And that's the world we're living in. And it happened really quickly. And not much that anybody could do about it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is the sociology of what we're living into.
Yeah. Yeah, the psychology and sociology are crucial elements. The thing is, COVID was one thing. If you look at everything, it's like, you know, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and you start to add them all up and their movement away from what we're trying to sustain, it's pushing us more and more to having to find an alternative. And this is our proposal of an alternative. Anyway, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time and effort and energy, and your input was fantastic today. Thank you, both of you. Sorry I didn't call you Brennan, but yeah, have a good one. Take it easy. Sorry, Brennan?
I said, that's okay. I didn't really feel like talking today, but it was a very good meeting nonetheless.
Thank you. All right, have a good one. Take it easy. Bye.
Thanks, Charles. Bye.
Bye, guys.